My collection of Shellac records is spread across 2 holders, not just randomly, but by their date of manufacture. Taking a look at these guys, they all have an N before the 78 RPM. And that means that they were built in an era where microgrooves were already a thing. Microgrooves are on vinyl records, and as you know, vinyl is a lot softer than shellac is, and therefore you can't play it on a gramophone. What I want to say is that when these guys were built, electric turntables and electric pickups were a thing, and therefore the tracking force on the record was greatly reduced from way over 100 grams on the old gramophones and even the early electric pickups down to, let's say, 20 grams maybe. And that means that these guys are made of a less strong composition of shellac. When you pick one of these guys here up, they have quite some heft to them. These ones don't really, not that much anymore. And therefore, I'm only playing these guys on the automatic turntable in my Cuba radiogram. The problem with picking up Shellac records from some guy who had them stored in their attic for 40 years is that many of them are warped. On a gramophone, not that big a deal. But when you play these on an automatic turntable, which has all sorts of mechanism to check their width and their diameter in order to place the tone arm in the right position, a warp can really irritate such a mechanism. The thing cannot register in the right place, then the tone arm is moved too far in, it might skip 2 records or none at all. So it really is beneficial to have straight records. And that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to try and straighten them out as flat as possible. You can always try to scare them straight, like this. But that doesn't always work. Welcome to my record straightening bench. The audio is a bit off, I'm in the kitchen here, so I'm sorry for that, but I think it's best to explain this right in situ. What I have here is a stack of straight records, which always helps for cooling them off. This will be the surface where I'll be straightening the things, and these records are still to be straightened. Right off the bat, I can tell you that the best solution to straightening records and the easiest way to do it would be to take a flat piece of glass and put it in the oven along with your record at somewhere around 70 degrees centigrade. You don't want to get too hot, and just let it sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, switch the heat off, let it cool down slowly, and then you have a straight record. This is also the go-to way when you have a really warped record which sat on a step somewhere and has like a 90-degree bend in it. Even those can be salvaged. My parents will kill me if I put a record like this into their precious oven, so I'm going to do it the hard way. You can use these hot air fans. I don't have one, this is just a regular old hairdryer, but I figure since most of you won't have an hot air fan either, this is a good way to demonstrate that it's even possible with these. When you do it this way, then tactic is more important than anything else. You don't have a great source of heat, but much rather a punctual point of application, and therefore if you heat your record up and let it cool down in the wrong sequence, then you're likely not to get the warp out of it. The most important thing is to get the circular motion out of your mind. Even though the thing is rotating, I found that when straightening a record, it's wrong to go in a circular motion. For heating up, that is fine. I shall demonstrate to you what is going to happen on this one here, but for straightening the record, do not go in a circular motion. Alright, let's go. I hope the camera was able to pick that up. The record is now more warped than it was in the beginning. The middle came up, and that is pure science, because we're heating this on one side only. The underside remains rather cool, and therefore the upside is starting to expand while the underside remains rather constant in its pace, and that's where this bend comes from. When you notice with a slight application of pressure that you can actually move this thing, it's starting to become a little malleable, that's a good time to flip it over and do the other side. Now this side is preheated as well. You may have also noticed that I'm going away from the circular motion. That's just for heating up. Now I'm going to concentrate on straightening the record. I'm either going to move from the center outward in linear motion. It's important to go from the inside out, because otherwise you're going to move the stress in the record on towards the inside, and then where is it going to go? It's just going to meet up against itself. You want the stress to move outwards. Another motion you can do is left to right, right to left across the record. That's probably the best way to do it if you have a very straight surface to put your record on, because then you're just going to go away from the circular thing altogether, and you're going to produce a nicer result. You can see it's gotten even more flexible by now. You can even hear, compared to a cold record, that this one has gotten really soft. Now we're going to flip it over again. Go slow on this. The slower you go and the more often you reverse the direction of the record, the better your results are going to get. This is going to take some time. I reckon about 10 minutes per record. It's a great time to kill some beer if you want to. And matter of fact, that's what I'm going to do as well. Okay, tapping on the center and on the sides, I can feel that the record lays flat on here now. To ensure that it stays flat while cooling down, I'm going to give it one random heat all around to make sure it's the same temperature all the way around. Leave it where it is on the hot working surface and put the stack of straight records on top of it to let it cool down. And by the way, if you're afraid that, oh, through the heat the fidelity is going down and I might lose my precious track, well, that's not going to happen. The way these things were produced is by making them much hotter and pressing them into a die. So warming them up that little bit is just like warming your car engine up. It's not going to hurt anything, okay? After all, you're making this record playable here, and it's worked for me on countless occasions. Now let's move over to the next one. Here we go. Well, I've had one hell of a time with this. We're going to let these cool overnight and see how they do tomorrow. A couple of things I learned during doing a couple of these guys. First of all, I scrapped one of them. Let me take a look here. That's the one. It's got a crack in here. Be careful that you don't over try to check whether they are soft enough already. Take it slow, let the record itself and gravity, of course, do its work, and they're going to turn out fine. You don't need to check for warpage or nothing like that. It's going to work, okay? As long as you have a flat surface, there's really no problem with it. Well, rotating these underneath the fan seemed to do quite a job at warming them up. Then of course once they're warm, do the back and forth linear motion that gets them flat, and then wedge them underneath here in a pile and let them cool down. The shellac acts like an insulation temperature wise and lets them cool off more evenly, and yeah. We'll see how they turn out tomorrow. So today is tomorrow. Here is our finished stack of straight records, and here is the one that has the split in it, right here. For these guys I have a small trick to repair them. This will play fine just as it is, because the grooves are so wide there's really no risk in skipping here, but I want to keep it fixed at the very end so that it doesn't split any further. There is no wonky stresses on here, and also because the record dropping mechanism of course puts somewhat a strain on it. So instead of filling the entire crack with glue, all I want to do is put some at the very end, because otherwise the glue is going to spread outward into the grooves and make it actually harder for the needle to track. So all we do, split it apart just like that, carefully, not to crack it in half. Take some super glue and put it onto the very edge, the run-out groove basically. That's enough, just a small dab. And then put it back together. Be careful to align it. Wipe off the excess. And there you go, that'll do. Okay, as you can see, stacking 10 records no longer a problem, and we're going to listen to the one that has cracked first. Okay, as you can see, the crack is barely hearable. I couldn't hear it. And, well, the record player isn't getting irritated anymore. Plays through these now fine.
Oh, Rudy, 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 oh, Rudy, 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 oh, Rudy, Rudy, Rudy.
Gotta be careful not to get a copyright strike here.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10.
Yeah, you get the idea. It's playing fine now, the records are all nice and straight. So yeah, you can try this at home. It's not that hard. And the results are really fine actually.